All right, everybody, we have a few minutes ahead. The reason for that is because we never know if AI will work. So let's get started with the presentation, and also because that will give us a few extra minutes for questions as well, and demos and whatnot. My name is Bruno Borges. I work at Microsoft, and today we're going to cover GitHub Copilot for Java developers and all the ways that you can use GitHub Copilot for your software development lifecycle. If you are brave enough to follow me on social media and social networks for news and updates, I'm Bruno Borges on Twitter, X, and also LinkedIn. Those are my primary platforms. LinkedIn is where actually most of the professional content is at. Twitter is great for rants. Let's get started with a quick summary of where we are today, where we were and where we are. So many of you are already using AI as a pair programmer, and that's great. But today we are using AI as way more as an extension of your work as a software developer. Now the future is targeted at hybrid teams where agents are software developers as well with you. I'll show you a cool demo about that, what we mean about having a hybrid team. One thing that I love as a Java developer is write once, run anywhere. And with GitHub Copilot, it's prompt once and agents everywhere. And that gives you the idea that no matter where you are in the software development lifecycle and which environment you're working at the moment, you have access to AI coding agents. Those places are github.com. You can go on github.com, create an issue, and assign to Copilot. And then Copilot will create a pull request, which you will review and then merge. Another cool place is IDEs and editors. So support on Visual Studio Code, Visual Studio, IntelliJ, Eclipse, now Xcode. Also have support for GitHub Copilot. So again, no matter where you are in your development tool set, you have access to these capabilities. Sometime last year, we published the terminal, the GitHub Copilot CLI, which is very similar to Cloud Code if that's what you have been using for the past few months. Very similar experience. Same models. So GitHub, and by the way, speaking about models, doesn't matter where you are, you have access to Claude models, OpenAI models, Codex, you have access to GPT models, you have access to Gemini models. And you have access to something called the Auto model, which is actually a model router that GitHub does. So it gives you even a discount if you choose that, because based on the prompt that you give, the task that you give, GitHub will route that to a model that is cheaper or optimized for the task that you're giving at hand. Okay, so GitHub Copilot CLI, integration with Slack and Microsoft Teams, so you can ask Copilot to work for you on some tasks, Azure DevOps, and other third-party tools, such as Linear and Jira. There is something that is not here that's quite recent, and that's GitHub Copilot SDK that you may have seen during the keynote. We announced the Copilot SDK for Java. GitHub Copilot SDKs are available in .NET, Node.js, Go, and Python, and now Java. GitHub Copilot SDK is a way for you to programmatically interact with the GitHub Copilot coding agent, the same thing that runs on the CLI. So you do have to have the CLI installed, and then you can have your Java-based tool or application interacting with Copilot CLI through the Copilot SDK. I'll talk in more details later. The other thing that is not showing here, and I have a set of slides, is GitHub Agentic workflows. If you're familiar with GitHub Actions, it's a CI/CD environment. It runs a container VM. It allows your automated scripts to run based on events, based on schedule, but it allows you also to call GitHub Copilot CLI from within that environment with a set of prompts and instructions, so you can automate even further your workflows. So let's get started with the experience on editors. So you have seen this experience before. You have a chat experience, you have code completion, you have many capabilities available within the IDE or editors. Here we see GitHub Copilot Chat on Visual Studio Code. You give a prompt, you can select models, you can select agents, you can customize instructions. There are many things that you can do from within this space where you want to make sure that you see what the agent is doing. You want to see the files that the agent is touching. You want to see the changes that are being made. You want to see the progress of the coding agent. There are specific capabilities like code completion. You are typing in, you want to, you press the dot and you want to see the methods. Some of those methods will be recommended by AI based on the context around that particular line of code. There's also something called next added suggestions. You manually make a change in a line of code, and then the AI will see, oh, this change feels like you want to make this change across the rest of the file. So it's going to highlight next lines and just give you a hint. If you press tab, it will apply that change in that next line as well. Agent mode, so you can have different agents even, and it gives you a way to customize. Hey, I have a documentation agent that will add Java docs, for example, or I have an annotation agent that will add annotations based on some guidelines. For example, @not null or @empty. Things like that that you can drive the agent to be specific for that task. Any model, I mentioned that, and it really becomes more than just a tool. It becomes, like your coding agent pair programmer. There's some cool things that you can do as well, such as adding / commands. There is a format for skills. There's a format for GitHub Copilot specific that allows you to write a markdown file and say, hey, this markdown file will be triggered as a prompt if I do a / command. And then you can give that name. So for example, /review docs. It's very simple, very easy. Instead of writing review the documentation of this file, you can just do /review docs. And that is part of this whole idea of customization of workflows. So you have prompt files, you have custom instructions, you have custom agents. And a lot of these artifacts you can find on a GitHub repo called Awesome Copilot. So if you search for Awesome Copilot, you're going to find a massive repo at GitHub that is public. Lots of developers are sharing their prompts, their instruction files, and you can copy, paste, throw in your repo and see what works, or generate your own and then share with others. It's a really cool project for seeing what the community out there is doing. Support for MCP is available, of course. As we saw Brian Benz on the keynote, his environment has over 200 tools, MCP tools. The more MCP tools that you have, perhaps less effective it becomes your environment. So you have to be sure to manage the amount of MCP tools that you have in your environment, so it doesn't confuse the AI agent. But the capability is there, and sometimes when you're doing something, you can actually deselect or select very specific tools that you want for specific tasks. So it's a really cool way to customize your environment as you go. Now, this is where things start to get interesting. You can actually go into your Copilot chat, whether that's Visual Studio Code, IntelliJ, or Eclipse, or Xcode, the same experience. You can actually delegate tasks to run in the background. So I'm doing something here, I want to review the documentation, but I want to continue doing some work on something else. I'm going to do this /review docs, and I'm going to send that to run asynchronously. So an agent will be triggered in the background, whether on your machine or even on github.com. And then that agent will eventually come to a result, and then you can review the results later. So here you can see a little bit of that experience. Here is where agents ran. For example, here are 3 agents that ran in the cloud. We have one agent here that ran and created even a pull request. So this is the icon for a pull request. So you can review that work on github.com, the one at the bottom, the last one. If you want, I mean, this is more for, so you have an idea of what else is coming in the roadmap for JetBrains capabilities. Everything that you saw so far is pretty much available in JetBrains. This slide covers some of the capabilities in the future. This is to show that we continue to bring the same experience on Visual Studio Code to JetBrains IDEs. And not same, but similar roadmap we're going to see for Eclipse. So if you're an Eclipse developer, one thing that we are working on now is the next added suggestion improvements, code review support, and so on. More agentic capabilities, especially debug agents, and enhancing, as always, the quality of the integration between GitHub Copilot and Eclipse. So if you want to experience JetBrains Eclipse with GitHub Copilot, here's some links. Feel free to take a picture of that. And we do take a lot of feedback. So we have these repos here on github.com where you can share the issues that you may have identified. Okay, so GitHub Copilot app modernization. This was hinted at the keynote, but the idea here is a combination of AI agents and tools, descriptive, deterministic tools that can run in integration and orchestration with coding agents to modernize your code base. So let's say you have a Java 8 application and you want to move to Java 21. You go into the GitHub Copilot app modernization, you assess the project, and then the project will run a bunch of recipes, open rewrite recipes and whatnot, to modernize your code base, updating the POM file, the build.gradle file, updating APIs, removing APIs that got deprecated, removing APIs that got removed, and making sure that your project will work. The most important part of the modernization is actually verifying dependencies, and that's what this also does. You know, what versions of Log4j or Spring have to be used with the newer version of Java. Now, let's start with a little bit of some demos. And I really love showing you GitHub Copilot CLI because that's where I prefer to start most of my work. When I have an idea, I go into the CLI and I kick it off there. When I feel like I wanted to be hands-on, I open Visual Studio Code or IntelliJ or Eclipse. Once my project is like getting shaped, then I move to github.com and I post the repo there. And that's when I started using github.com coding agents in the cloud to do more work as I go in the background. So let's start with that. So here, I want to go into this folder, and I'm going to enable this flag called YOLO. Now, YOLO means you only live once. And I'm brave enough to do this without using a Docker sandbox. Docker sandbox is a cool feature Docker announced in the past few months. And it allows you to run a container in your environment where you can have a coding agent that will run in YOLO mode, which means all permissions given to the coding agent. You don't want to do that outside a sandbox. And I am stupid enough to do it outside a sandbox. So what it does is the coding agent will not ask me questions. It will just make assumptions. Instead of, are you sure I can remove this file? I should say no, probably. But in here, it will just do it, okay? All right, create Java 25 Spring Boot to do app with UI. Now, this usually takes about 5 to 10 minutes. Can anybody here write a to-do app in 5 to 10 minutes? You're lying.
You just take one that's just a markdown file.
Just a markdown file, yes. That is a good, well, I didn't say, yeah, well, I did say in Spring. But yes, a markdown is good enough as a to-do file.
There's a million demo apps that have to do it.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean you're writing. It doesn't mean it means you're forking or copying. And here, it is actually writing, or is it? Maybe it's copying from its training data set. But you see, it's making a bunch of assumptions. Oh, I see that this environment, my computer has Java 25 installed, so good, I can do Java 25. Oh, it's a Spring Boot, I probably should use the latest version. Oh, I need a database, so probably I'm gonna use H2 database. You see there, H2 database with JPA and a TinyLeaf UI because it's a reasonably fair way to do a UI in Spring Boot applications. So it's really fascinating to see how fast those assumptions are made and how fast the code is generated with AI. Now, writing and generating code is easy. Maintaining code is the hard part, right? And that's fair. But that's why I like the idea of using GitHub.com. When I have an existing code base, I will go and create issues, very specific issues. Or I have this particular bug that's really annoying me. And then I assign that bug to GitHub Copilot. GitHub Copilot will work only on that particular task. It's not like, oh, I'm going to figure out everything based on this project. It's going to work very targeted. In here, it's generating from the ground up, and that's fine. Now, while it generates the code, and by the way, I am using Cloud Opus 4.6, and it's a very expensive model. And probably I should have selected the Sonnet model also because it's faster. But I do like the Opus model because one, I can use it for free because it's Microsoft. But the second reason is I really like the quality of this model, the output of this model. So for generating code, maybe it's too much, but for maintaining code, it's great because it has much better experience. The application is up and running. So I just spoke to you, and the application is running. Finish the demo. Wow. Okay, demo finished. Okay. Now, what if I want to push this application now to GitHub.com? Create a repo on my GitHub account and push this project there. It's going to use the CLI, the GitHub CLI in my environment. Or maybe it uses the REST API, I'm not sure. But you see, it's making some assumptions. It's going to create a .gitignore file. That's great. Oh yes, it's going to use the CLI, and then it's going to push the code. Great, I think. Spring Boot 3.4.4, not the latest Spring Boot, using JPA with H2 in-memory database. repo create to do app -- public, with the source being this folder -- publish. Done. The project is now live on github.com. All right. So what if I want to have timestamp? There's no timestamp in this to-do app. Issues, new issue, to-do items don't have timestamp. Create. And now I'm going to assign to Copilot. Okay, I've assigned to GitHub Copilot. Now, I'm on the CLI, I could have done that, but I want to show you how I can have multiple issues. I could have had multiple issues. I haven't just one, but I could have dozens, hundreds of issues, and I assign GitHub Copilot to all of them. And that would give me lots of pull requests to review later and spend the rest of the week just reviewing pull requests. What amazing work. But the point is, you can assign that to the cloud GitHub coding agent. So let's look at the session. Here we see the session of this agent working. And it works on this cloud environment. It's the same environment that you run GitHub Actions. It creates this virtual environment in the cloud, in a container, and then it stores the CLI. But the cool thing is it has a few MCP servers by default. One of them is the Playwright MCP server. Playwright is like Selenium. It allows you to programmatically navigate into a website using the browser. And it will give us the capability of even testing the UI of this to-do app as it does the pull requests. One cool thing is sometimes the AI, I don't even ask, but the AI will add screenshots of the UI into the pull request for me to review. Or do you like this design kind of thing? So given that the issue is specifically about timestamp, I think it's going to add the screenshots for this issue. Okay, so let's take a look at that. So here we see the pull request in work in progress status, add timestamp to to-do items. Comments on the issue. If you feel like the changes so far are missing something, you can come here and say, make sure the format is non-American style, which is, you know, DDMM, YYYY, right? Or if you really want to be picky, the best format, the format is this one, because then it's sortable. You can sort that properly, right? Now I don't want to go and do this, but let's just take a look at the changes so far. Where's the session? Here, view session. Okay. Now I understand the issue clearly. Of course it does. It understands clearly. Also always does. The fix involves displaying the created at timestamp in the UI. Add CSS. Okay, so it's adding the field into the UI, and see it's using the American format. And here's the CSS, and run tests. The test ran. There is an error. Here is the error. The environment has Java 17, but the project targets Java 25. Now, this complicates things a little bit. Now, this is actually a lesson. By default, it will run a container image that GitHub offers with Java 17 installed by default. There is a way to write a YAML file that customizes that so you can install other software, such as a new version of Java, into that environment. Okay? Okay, so let's see. Good feedback. Let me address both issues, because there is a code review. So there's another agent called the code review agent that will review automatically the changes. So in here, let's see, missing no check for created at before calling the dot format. Interesting. That's important. Some to-dos may not have a date. The timestamp element should be displayed as a block element. Okay. And then display block. Cool. All right, so view pull request. Everything seems cool. So make sure this project, actually no, ready for review. And here is the repo, the branch for this pull request. But instead of doing that, I'm going to just do this. Number 2, check out PR 2 and run locally. Okay. So it does the GHPR checkout number 2, which is the ID of that PR. It's going to stop the old instance and rebuild the project with those PR changes. Detach shell for Start Spring Boot app. And now Maven Spring Boot run. Okay. Okay. Next demo. And there it is. There's my timestamp, right? So very easy to work with. I can have multiple issues on github.com. I can validate them locally easily with the CLI. I don't even actually need to go and run Visual Studio Code unless I want to touch the source code, which is fine in some occasions. Okay. Now, let's see something really cool now. Let's do github.com/Java Evolved. So this website, actually, yeah, I have to do this way because it's a brand new repo. This website has something called the GitHub Agentic workflow. So when we look at the actions, Or is there? Actually, maybe this is the wrong repo. Let's confirm. Workflows. Yeah. Okay. This is not a good example. Oh yes, Bruno Borges. Jaro. Okay, so I have a new repo, another repo, sorry. This is a repo of a SVG to PNG library. And what is an agentic workflow? So when you look at the GitHub Actions, you have all these GitHub Actions here, and you can run the CI, you can run deploy documentation, and one cool thing that I have here is called effort labeler. Effort labeler it's like a GitHub action, but it runs Copilot in the environment because it will run a coding agent to run a custom prompt, and it will have some reasoning, some thinking. So let's go and create an issue here called feature request. Feature turn colored SVGs into black and white PNG. Make the CLI have a flag. This is a SVG to PNG converter written in Java. It has both a library and also a CLI interface. So make the CLI have a flag that converts to black and white. Very straightforward feature for this CLI. So I'm going to create. Now, before I assign this to GitHub Copilot, I actually want to assess the effort for this issue. So I'm going to run the /command effort. And I'm going to comment. When I do this /effort, it will trigger this GitHub action, or actually GitHub agentic workflow, which is the effort labeler. The effort labeler is a GitHub action, very similar to what you have seen before, but you can see here that it gets triggered when an issue is opened or when a comment is added to an issue, or you can also manually dispatch that with this process all flag. So you're going to process all the issues in the environment, in the repo. And the cool thing that it does here is I /command. If the comment has a /effort, it's going to trigger this workflow. Okay? So what does it do? It has safe outputs because you don't want the agent to have access to do everything in the repo. You may delete the repo. You want to make sure that the safe output for this is only add labels and add comment. It's the only thing that can come out of this execution of this agentic workflow. And here's the prompt. It's a prompt, it's a markdown file. This prompt gets dispatched to GitHub Copilot CLI inside GitHub Actions. It explains what it is, what the project is, and then it explains the effort labels are small, medium, large. When triggered by an issue, read the issue title, analyze the implementation complexity, apply exactly one effort label, and add a brief comment. And when it's triggered by a /command with /effort, this is what it does. And when it's triggered manually, this is what it does. So it's a prompt. It's a very simple prompt. Now let's see this prompt in this agentic workflow in action. So here we have it not working. It happens, I told you. I told you, call security, get this guy out of stage. Now, because that did not work, doesn't mean it never worked. It just means it's not working right now. So, because of that, I'll just show you how it works. And in this case, for this issue here from a couple weeks ago, here's how it would look like. GitHub Actions finished the work, and it added a label, effort medium, and it made a comment. Okay, we believe this issue has medium effort, maybe can be done, maybe can be not, but here's how it would be done. And you can see it. Let's go to agents. Let's go to agent. I think it was this one. So here's the same session that we saw before. It's just how things get triggered. But here's this session from, oh, not this one. This is all sessions. Oh, these are created by me. That's why it's not showing. Let's go to all sessions. And it's not showing here. Okay.
Effort label was disabled.
Effort label is disabled?
Maybe it should be in the
It might be disabled. Let's take a look at that.
yeah, actions here.
Oh. Well, disable workflow. Oh, here it is. Pending, queued, pending. Why is it pending? Okay. Oh, it's actually running. Thanks, Richard. Not that that was what you meant, but thanks. So it actually did run. Look at that. Okay, so here's the session. Add labels, success. Let's take a look at that. So the effort is very small. And here's the comment. Oh, let's go back. Oh, thank you. The AI gods. Demo AI gods. Okay, cool. So it finished labeling. So it did run a prompt on a GitHub action. Now, of course, this GitHub agentic workflow ran by triggered by a / command, manual / command. But it can be triggered by anything. A failed build, a comment that just another user added, on a regular basis, a cron job. You can run this any time in any way. Okay, so let's go back to our to-do app. One cool thing that we have to consider here is, okay, Copilot. Let's go back to Copilot. Let's resume the session. Copilot and then /resume. And build Java 25 Spring Boot to do. Yes, let's go to this one. Let's go to do a fleet. So a fleet is, I'm going to trigger a prompt, and I want the agent to think about that task and run several coding agents in parallel. And one cool project that I was going to show you is this project here, Java Evolved. Java Evolved is a static website, very, very lean, very basic, but it has really cool things in it. This is a project that shows you comparisons of how you would write code in Java 8 or before and how you would write Java today. Okay, so it has really cool comparisons here. So here's the compact canonical constructor, not a major difference. Here's compact source file. Okay, cool, that's cool. That's a lot of change. Default interface methods, exhaustive switch without default because of sealed classes, and so on and so forth. Now, where did I use Fleet? I used Fleet when I wanted to add localization. I did a /fleet, and I said, hey, translate this website to these other 5, 6 different languages. And it triggered parallel coding agents in my environment, one for each language. And then it did all, of course I added more later, but it translated all of the content originally in English to even things like Arabic. And why do I show you Arabic? Have you noticed what is different between Arabic and other languages? Anybody has a comment? Right to left. I did not know about that, but AI knew, and it did the CSS, the style for right to left. And of course, there was a bug. Of course, it did right to left on the code as well. So I had to tell the agent, do not do right to left in the code, okay? Because that's stupid, do not do that. But it was really cool. And I don't know if anybody here can read Arabic, I certainly cannot, but based on the basic Google translation, it's very good, very accurate. And I did not use Opus 4.6, I used Somnay for this, which was really fast and cheap. So if you have a job in translating content, I have bad news for you. It's a lot easier to translate now. But let's do that here. Fleet, translate the UI to Portuguese and Spanish. So it's gonna, of course, I'm probably making a mistake here because this is live and I didn't put much thought into it, but I should have probably done a specification before on how the internationalization should be done in this project, okay? So, no existing to-dos, I will decompose this into parallel work, and so it's gonna add internationalization configuration, create message property files, update the time leaf template to use internationalization, add CSS for language switcher, build and test the app, config, update template. So it starts with adding, triggering an agent that will think about things. And then after that, okay, of these things, what are the things that I can parallel? And then start sub-agents, okay? So /fleet is really cool. Oh, see, I forgot to do -- YOLO, so it's asking me questions now. So yes, and then YOLO, /YOLO, because I don't want to be bothered again, okay? Don't do that. Use a Docker sandbox if you want to do YOLO, okay? But it's really cool. See, now there are two background agents, one for creating message bundles and one for adding the Spring 118 config, both done. Now dispatching the template update and CSS update. Sounds like you're going to have a to-do app translated into 2 languages, or 3 total, English, Spanish, and Portuguese, quite fast. So, fascinating what you can do with the CLI and GitHub.com. Now let's go back to the slides why that thing works, and let's just walk through a few things here. So there are some other / commands that you can do, both in IDEs and the GitHub CLI. These are / commands specifically for the CLI. You can see the /YOLO, you can see /MCP, /context. Context is good, so you understand how occupied is the context window for your current session. /plan, which is it's an agent that will not do any changes. It will just plan things for you. Okay, I did a bunch of demos for you already. So let's go to coding agents. I actually showed you how we do this. We assign to GitHub Copilot and things magically work. You can go back to the PR and say at Copilot, hey, make sure you don't forget about this thing. And then the Copilot coding agent on GitHub.com will make changes to that PR. You can specialize agents. Those agents can be specialized in your source code, in your repo. And then that agent can actually appear both on your Visual Studio Code or your CLI or GitHub.com. The same agents.md file will be available across all the environments. You can see how the agent is working on GitHub.com. You can steer and make changes. Stop doing that. Go this way instead. We saw the review code in that PR, how it was working. We saw GitHub Copilot coding agent, agentic workflow. This is the other thing. On GitHub.com, the GitHub mobile app. I was at a conference, a meetup a month ago. And before my talk, there was another person presenting, and I was like, oh, shoot, I forgot to do something. And then I added a GitHub issue, and then on my phone, I added a GitHub issue to my demo, and then I assigned to Copilot. And then my session started, and okay, let me show you my demo, and the demo was fixed because I was just sitting on my chair, okay, I need to fix this thing. I showed you agentic workflows. This is the important thing about agentic workflows, the security. This slide is not exactly about security. Let me go back here. You have the GH CLI, the GitHub CLI, and then you add the extension for the agentic workflow, and that's how you add the capability of agentic workflow into your project. There is a way to do that on GitHub.com, but it's pretty straightforward to do the CLI as well. After that, you have extra commands for the GHAW, the agentic workflow extension for the CLI. And that's how you work. You actually don't write. You see that YAML file and the markdown with the prompt? You actually don't write that. What do you write? A prompt, of course. Give me an agentic workflow that does this every night, or whenever a comment is triggered, or whenever a slash command is triggered. That's your prompt for creating an agentic workflow. Of course, later you review that workflow and make sure it does what you intended to do. And after that, you run the AW compile. Where is it? There you go. AW compile. The AW compile is what will turn that .md file with a YAML header into a .yaml file, which is a GitHub action format. That GitHub action has lots of codes in it. You don't want to touch that file. That file is generated. The reason for that is because there's a lot of security layers, security guardrails, in a way that Copilot CLI will not do things that it cannot do, that it should not do. That's why we have those safe outputs that I mentioned. You can only add an issue. You can only add a command. So it's a really good way to automate your CI/CD in ways that require some type of thinking. I'm not saying thinking, some type of thinking, some type of reasoning, an AI-style reasoning. Lastly, we announced Copilot SDK. So the Copilot SDK is a way to work with Copilot CLI agents, but using an SDK to interact. Instead of doing prompts or shell scripts triggering the Copilot CLI, you can actually integrate the Copilot coding agent into your application or into your tools. So you don't have to even care about, which model I'm going to use. You can have the option for model, but you can just do the auto model or whatnot. But that experience with the CLI, you can add something like that into your applications. So we have support for Node.js, TypeScript, Python.NET, Go, and Java. And when you're going to use the CLI, when you're going to use the SDK, so this slide is a good shows a good difference between when to use which. So the CLI is pretty much what I've been doing in these demos. The SDK is when I want to make sure a particular use case is repeatable, is automated as part of my application, as part of my tool, my process. So here's some examples. Browser use plugins, Office plugins. There's an engineer at Microsoft built a GitHub Copilot plugin for PowerPoint, and it works great, better than the Copilot support in PowerPoint. So it shows you the capability because it's fascinating, the things that you can do with it. Okay. So yeah, there's an example of a browser, of a CLI, and so on and so forth. Now let me show you, maybe we have time. Let's see if this works. Okay, so JavaOne, CD work, JMeter. Anybody here knows what JMeter is? Anybody does not know what JMeter is? Okay, JMeter is a load test tool. I got 10 minutes. It's a load test tool. So you have an HTTP API. You want to load test that. You want to trigger 200 requests per second for 5 minutes and see how that API will behave. That's a very basic example. JMeter does way more than that, not just HTTP endpoints. But that's an example of what it does. Now, I built a Copilot chat experience for JMeter using the Copilot SDK for Java. But it's been a long time that I don't test this thing, so it will probably not work, which is actually fun because then we can get to use Copilot to fix it. So let's see how we are with this demo. So here we have a JMeter window. This is a straightforward window. It has an empty test plan. And I can come here and I can add threads. So I can add a thread group. And I can say, hey, I want 10 users. And I want to loop for five times. And then I'm going to add a sampler, an HTTP request. And the HTTP request will be to HTTP localhost 8080. And guess what I'm going to test? the to-do app. Now, I can go and test how to add, actually adding items, but for now I'm just gonna do the slash, just to list the to-do items. And now I'm gonna add an aggregator, which is listener and view results tree. And I'm gonna add another listener, which is an aggregate graph. And I'm gonna add a summary report. Okay, and run. You should save. Yeah, I will not save, and override file. Okay, so it is, let's see if it's running. Send localhost 8080. Okay, cool. So it's running. Now, it did run. Okay, total requests 50. It works great. 57 requests per second. All good. But you see how complicated and annoying that was, right? To go and create a test plan. So let me go and do Tools, Copilot Chat. And this is where it will probably work. See, there you go. This is a Copilot chat experience built with the Copilot SDK. And how did I build? I asked Copilot to build it for me. So I don't actually know a single line of code of this plugin for JMeter. But the point is, it was working. But now it says, oh, the Copilot CLI protocol version has changed because it's using an old version of the Copilot SDK. Because again, it has been a while that I don't do this thing. So let's go into the project, cd Copilot extension, and ls Copilot YOLO update to the latest available Copilot SDK version. I don't know if it's gonna work, but that's the fun. Lots of things I thought it would not work in this demo, and so far everything has been going okay, I guess, except now this. Okay. Let's go back. Loading environment 2 plugins. I don't want these plugins. Plugin. MCP server Playwright is taking longer than expected to connect. Oh, okay. So because we only have 5 minutes, I want to give people time to ask questions. So how about I'll show you just a screenshot of this, how it would look, and then we can see and wrap up. Okay, so this is the Apache JMeter Copilot Chat plugin, and this is how it would look like if it was working. Instead of me manually doing the task plan, I would ask Copilot Chat inside JMeter, hey, I have this URL. Go and generate a task plan for me with X amount of users, with X amount of time, with X amount of threads, and so on and so forth. And then it just literally generates the XML for me. Sure, I can go and go to ChatGPT or whatever and ask, hey, generate a JMX file for me for JMeter. Of course, you can do that. But this is to show that you can have that experience integrated into your applications. It doesn't have to be something that the user has to go somewhere else, generate a file, and then load the file. In fact, the UI here has load test plan. I can just go and boom, load the test plan into the JMeter UI because it's integrated. I can call the API, load file, and voila, the file is there. You can see that it got generated to do load test, and I can just trigger. So the cool comment about this thing is, the very first time I ran this demo in my computer, JMeter actually got triggered, Copilot SDK actually triggered the JMeter CLI behind the scenes and showed me the results. because it found that it was running inside the JMeter installation folder. Oh, I'm here, I'll just run the JMeter CLI. And that was not my instruction, but my intent was test this endpoint. And the Copilot agent tested the endpoint. So I had to be more specific. No, don't test, generate a test plan instead. So I had to adjust my system prompt inside the code as well to make sure that it would never trigger the test right away. Okay, so this concludes the presentation. So if you have GitHub Copilot and if you have github.com, this is the sort of experience that you can get in your software development lifecycle. All the way from the CLI into your IDE, into github.com, all the way into customizing your tools and applications. So please do go forward and try it in your code base already on github.com. Thank you very much. Now questions? Yes?
So I tried this a week ago, and
Okay, so you can go, so here I am in my repo, and I can say, switch back to main branch. Well, actually, I don't have to say that. By the way, if you know the command, you don't have to type the prompt. You can just do a exclamation mark, and that switches to bash. So you can do git checkout main. Okay, so that switches to your branch. I have pending files, so it won't work. But create issues for translating. Oh, actually, yeah, let's do that. Create issues for translating to Arabic, French, and German. One issue each. Right. So that prompt, the coding agent will call GH, the GitHub CLI, and create one issue per language. So yeah, do I want to run this thing? Yes, I do want to run this thing. And it will just go and create the issue for you. So you don't have to use the web UI. You can just be here and ask things.
actually my problem is I
Yeah.
may want to figure out how to assign it. Can I now just say, and assign them to yourself, or they automatically assign?
Yeah, you can ask to assign. Yeah. Any other questions? Oh, well, let's see the translation if it finished. We have to clean? Okay. If you want to see the translation, go to the Microsoft booth and I will be happy to show you. Thank you, guys.